My wife Kelly recently declared, "You're no longer fun." I want a trial separation. I simply replied, "Done." Thus began the systematic process of untangling our intertwined lives. Weeks later, the life she envisioned for herself came crashing. Down amidst chaos. I am a 42-year-old male data analyst, grounded in logic, unpredictable patterns, and calculated results. This foundation brings me immense comfort and stability, a sentiment my wife, who is 38, once echoed. For 15 years, she referred to me as her rock. This was my role. I provided, I supported, and I maintained a steady, predictable rhythm in our lives, allowing her to explore a constantly shifting array of passions. Initially, she ventured into a pottery business that lost money, then transitioned to part-time yoga instruction. I managed the mortgage, investments, and health insurance. Viewing our relationship as a partnership, my task was to build the ship. Hers was to be the sail. However, last Thursday, she decided that the ship felt more like a prison. She sat me down in our living room, which she had redecorated last fall in soothing, neutral tones. Avoiding eye contact, she fixated on a decorative vase that cost more than my first car. "Peter," she began, adopting that soft, therapeutic tone that always signaled an emotional bombshell. "I need some space. I feel like I'm losing myself." I remained silent and patient, understanding that the preamble was for her comfort rather than mine. "You are a good man," she continued, offering a verbal pat on the head. "A wonderful provider, but you're not fun anymore. Everything is so planned, so safe. I need to feel alive again. I must find my own path." I stared at the expensive, non-structural wooden beam she insisted we install over the media center. A purchase that had cost me my entire annual bonus, a symbol of aesthetics over functionality. As she spoke of fun while enveloped in the security I had dedicated my adult life to building, I felt something solidify within me rather than break. All the discordant data points, the late-night texting filled with giggles, the new expensive workout attire from unfamiliar brands, and her newfound admiration for a spiritual guru named Zachary, who also happened to be her new tennis partner, suddenly aligned into a clear, linear narrative. The conclusion was both glaring and devastating. I observed her closely for what felt like the first time in years. Her $200 leggings, the fresh manicure on a hand that had not worn a wedding ring in 2 weeks due to its interference with her energy flow. She seemed to expect me to plead, to promise more excitement, to book a trip to Bali, to transform into someone I was not. "Done," I stated. The word landed like a stone in still water, far from the response she anticipated. Her brow furrowed. In confusion, "Done. Just like that. You're not even going to fight for us. You just told me you wanted a trial separation?" I replied, my voice unnervingly calm. "I am agreeing to your terms. It's what you wanted, so you should be happy." "Well, yes, but—" She stammered, flustered like an actor who had skipped to the final act. "Okay, well, good. I'm going to go pack." She ascended the stairs and I chose not to follow. Instead, I listened to the sounds of drawers opening and closing, the disassembly of my life. A surge of white-hot rage coursed through me. I wanted to hurl that ridiculous vase against the wall. But soon a wave of profound sadness washed over me. I thought of the girl I had married who once relished cheap pizza on the bare floor of our first tiny apartment. Where had she gone? I allowed myself to feel the anger and grief for about an hour before it dissipated. What remained was a chilling clarity. This was not a trial. It was an ambush, and I refused to be its victim. I retrieved my phone, my mind racing. A separation is a legal matter, complete with rules and consequences. She sought a new life. It would simply facilitate its authentic beginning. My first call was not to a bank, but to a highly recommended family law attorney named Victoria. I left a concise voicemail and received an email 30 minutes later to schedule a consultation for the following morning. After a sleepless night, I sat in Victoria's office, explaining my predicament. She listened attentively, her expression neutral. When I finished, she provided clear, methodical advice not for revenge, but for self-protection. The moment of separation is a critical legal marker, Peter, she advised. Your actions from this point onward must be transparent and defensible. Following her guidance, I spent the remainder of that Friday taking calculated steps toward financial separation. I opened a new personal checking account, careful not to drain the account Kelly used, as that could be perceived as financial abuse. Instead, I left a significant cushion of $4,000 in the old account to serve as a transitional buffer. I then transferred the rest of my savings to my new secure account and updated my direct deposit information with HR to have all future paychecks directed to this new account. I meticulously documented the exact time and date of the transfer, noting it occurred post-separation. Next, I focused on disentangling our credit. As the primary holder on our main credit card, I notified the company of our legal separation and had our supplementary card deactivated immediately. I took full responsibility for the outstanding balance of nearly $8,000 on our credit card. It felt like a clean, legal amputation. To set my intentions firmly, I logged into my employer's HR portal and updated my marital status to legally separated. This action triggered a qualifying life event, and the system confirmed the change, notifying me that spousal benefits for Kelly would be terminated effective the last day of the current month. Since it was June 15th, she had just 15 days of coverage remaining. A notification regarding COBRA continuation coverage would be sent to our home address within 10 business days. This step was crucial, particularly because her prescription for Maxalt, which she needed for chronic migraines, cost over $600 a month out of pocket. On Saturday, Kelly arrived to collect more of her belongings. She approached with a light-hearted demeanor, as if this upheaval were merely a grand adventure. "Hope you're not too lonely rattling around in this big old house," she said, offering a pitying smile. "I'm managing," I replied. "By the way, I've started the formal process." "Just wanted you to know." "What process?" she asked, briefly distracted by her phone. "The separation," I clarified. "Legal stuff." "Lawyers. You'll probably want to talk to one." Her laughter was dismissive. "Oh, Peter, so dramatic. It's just a trial. We'll talk in a few weeks." She had no inkling of the reality she was stepping into. She assumed I would remain patiently in the background while she explored new horizons. She was mistaken. Update 1 came about 5 days later, as the first tremors of her new reality began to hit. The trigger, as anticipated, was the credit card situation. On Wednesday, I received a text from Kelly. "This is so weird. My card was just declined at Lululemon. The girl at the counter was so rude about it. Can you call them? I think their system is down." Me. There was no system error. "I canceled your supplementary card last week," I informed her. "We're separated, Kelly. Our finances are separate now, too." "You did what?" "Peter, I needed that outfit." "How could you do that without talking to me?" "I did talk to you," I replied, my tone steady. "I told you I was starting the legal process. This is part of it. You can use the debit card for now." The 3 dots on her message bubble flickered in and out for a long time. I imagined she was checking the balance of the old account. The $4,000 buffer I had left seemed to prevent immediate panic. But the message was unmistakable. The endless flow of cash had been dammed. The main eventa, full-blown earthquake, hit this morning. At 9 a.m. on Saturday, my doorbell rang. 'Twas Kelly, accompanied by her mother, Joyce, for reinforcement. Joyce is a woman who believes that Kelly's whims are divine mandates, and that my purpose on this earth is to fund them. "Peter, I demand you explain this," Joyce insisted as she marched into my foyer. Kelly stood behind her, arms crossed, exuding a self-righteous fury. "You canceled her credit card. Are you trying to humiliate her?" I'm establishing financial boundaries, which is standard procedure in a legal separation. I replied calmly. Kelly finally snapped. Standard procedure. This isn't a business merger. This is my life. You're trying to control me, to punish me for wanting more than this boring, predictable life. I'm not punishing you, I said, my voice flat. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. You wanted a different life. You wanted to carve out your own path. I'm simply allowing you to confront the full reality of that choice. The predictable life you find so dull also happened to pay for everything. I let that statement linger for a moment before delivering the final crucial piece of information. Since we're discussing logistics, I continued, looking directly at Kelly. I need to formally notify you that I informed my employer of our separation. As a result, your eligibility for my health, dental, and vision insurance will terminate at the end of this month. That's in 10 days. You'll receive a COBRA packet in the mail explaining how you can continue your coverage at your own expense. Color drained from Kelly's face upon hearing this. Joyce looked perplexed. What does that mean? She asked. Kelly's response was a strangled whisper. My migraine prescription, Peter. They told me it's over $600 a month without your insurance. That's correct, I confirmed. So you'll need to budget for that. The COBRA premium for the full plan will likely be around $900 a month. Joyce gasped. That's monstrous. You can't do that to her. She has a medical condition. She's a 38 adult who has chosen to separate from the husband who provided her insurance, I stated firmly, refusing to engage in hysteria. This is a natural consequence. She wanted to find her own way. This is an introduction to the fundamentals of wayfinding. This isn't the real you, Peter. You're being cruel, Kelly exclaimed, her eyes brimming with tears of anger and desperation. I'm going to call a lawyer. You'll hear from them. I would expect nothing less, I replied. I've already engaged legal counsel myself. Her name is Victoria. The fact that I was 2 steps ahead of her, having already secured a lawyer, seemed to leave her momentarily speechless. She stared at me, bewildered, grappling with the contrast between the predictable person she knew and the cold, calculating figure I had become. Grabbing her mother's arm, she stormed out. The battle had commenced. Update 2. The initial skirmishes have transitioned into the slow, grinding machinery of the legal process. True to her word, I heard from Kelly's attorney approximately 2 weeks after our confrontation. The letter I received was a well-crafted piece of writing, depicting me as a cruel and manipulative villain who, in a fit of vindictiveness, had callously severed financial support for his emotionally vulnerable wife to force her into submission. It demanded that I immediately restore all financial assistance, cover her legal fees, and outlined an outrageous request for long-term spousal support. I forwarded it to Victoria, who remained unfazed. It's a standard shock and awe tactic, she explained over the phone. They're loud and aggressive, hoping to induce panic and prompt you to settle for an unfavorable deal. We will respond with calm, documented facts. And we did just that. Our response, which took several days of meticulous crafting, was a quiet masterpiece. We calmly refuted every claim, stating that I had acted judiciously and on legal advice in separating our finances after Kelly abandoned the marital home. We made it clear that we would not be reinstating any funds. Then came our counteroffensive. I took a calculated risk and hired a private investigator. It was an expensive decision, and the surveillance took 3 days, but the results proved invaluable. He provided a comprehensive report, complete with time-stamped photographs of Kelly and Zachary entering and leaving his apartment over several nights, including a clear image of them enjoying a romantic breakfast on his balcony. We attached this report to our response along with a text message from Zachary. We formally asserted that Kelly had entered into an extramarital affair, which was the true reason for our separation. However, Victoria didn't stop there. She filed a devastatingly effective legal motion for discovery, alleging dissipation of marital assets. We claimed that for months Kelly had used marital funds, my income, to finance her affair. We subpoenaed her bank statements and, crucially, Zachary's financial records, seeking to uncover how much of my money had gone towards gifts, dinners, and trips for him. The reaction was seismic. About a week after we submitted our response, I received a call from a blocked number. It was Zachary, and the smug, self-assured persona he had previously displayed was nowhere to be found. He sounded like a frightened college student.
Hey.
"Man, Peter, I think there's been a huge misunderstanding here," he stammered. "I don't think there's been any misunderstanding at all, Zachary," I replied, my tone icy. "This is crazy. Your lawyer is subpoenaing me. I'm just a tennis coach, man. I want to be dragged into this. It's going to ruin my reputation." "Your reputation is your concern," I said. "My finances, however, are mine. Kelly spent thousands on you from an account funded by my salary, and my lawyer views that as fraudulent. You are now a material witness in a divorce proceeding. You can either cooperate or explain to a judge why you shouldn't have to." I heard him take a shaky breath. "She said you guys were over, that it was just a matter of time." "Then you should have no problem confirming that under oath during a deposition," I said before ending the call. The entitlement had finally collided with the hard wall of consequence. Kelly and her mother began calling incessantly, leaving frantic, disjointed voicemails. One moment they were threatening me with eternal damnation, and the next they were in tears, claiming I was ruining her life and insisting that I wasn't the man she married. She was right. The man she married would have absorbed this betrayal, silently suffering in silence. The man she left behind was merely analyzing the data, and the data was not in her favor. Final update, it's over. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. The entire process took just under 8 months. It's a remarkably swift time frame for a contentious divorce, according to Victoria. It didn't conclude with a dramatic courtroom showdown. Instead, it collapsed under its own weight. Zachary was the linchpin. The threat of a deposition where his finances would be publicly scrutinized and his role in the affair exposed under oath proved too daunting for him. He capitulated completely. His lawyer contacted Victoria and offered a signed affidavit in exchange for his removal from the proceedings. He detailed the affair, confirming it had begun long before the separation. He sought to extricate himself and was willing to betray Kelly to achieve that, with her infidelity established and her financial claims exposed as unfounded. Kelly's leverage evaporated. Her aggressive attorney, recognizing a losing and costly case, urged her to settle. Here are the final consequences. The house was sold as our primary marital asset, with the equity divided 50/50 according to state law. My portion was sufficient to secure a down payment on a comfortable, albeit smaller, condo. Her share consisted of a substantial one-time payment, which would be the last I would ever provide her. As for spousal support, this was her last stand, and it failed. Due to the overwhelming evidence of infidelity and her dissipation of our assets, the judge awarded her only 2 years of minimal rehabilitative alimony. This amount barely covers rent for a basic apartment and is explicitly intended to support her while she searches for full-time employment. The fund is officially depleted. Our claim of dissipation was successful. Based on the bank records, we demonstrated that she had spent over $15,000 on her affair. This amount was deducted directly from her half of the house equity and awarded to me. In the end, she effectively reimbursed me for financing her own betrayal. The lives they chose have now fully materialized. Kelly is renting a modest apartment and working as a full-time office manager for a landscaping company. Her social media is now filled with generic, inspirational quotes. I've heard that Zachary ended their relationship the moment his legal troubles began and has struggled to maintain clients at his club. Reputations are indeed fragile, Joyce now has a daughter who is financially and emotionally dependent on her, and deeply unhappy with her new, unglamorous life. As for me, I am healing. It's an active journey. The initial months involved a grim focus on legal strategy. But once the dust settled, I had to confront the 15-year void in my life. I sought the help of a good therapist to assist me in processing the enormity of the deception. It's no longer about anger. It's about understanding how I allowed myself to become so complacent, how I overlooked numerous red flags. My new condo has become my sanctuary. It is quiet, filled with my books, my old comfortable armchair, and a delightfully complex German coffee maker that Kelly would have deemed hideous. It brews a perfect cup of coffee each morning. That simple, predictable pleasure feels more like joy to me than anything I've experienced in years. I've started hiking on weekends, something Kelly always loathed. The other day, while standing on a ridge overlooking the valley, I felt a profound sense of peace that nearly brought me to tears. It wasn't the thrill I was pursuing. It was something deeper. It was freedom. The rock is no longer an anchor for someone else's ship. It has become a mountain standing proud in its own right.